you've got your Bibles open, we'll please to Exodus chapter 20. Exodus chapter 20. Now, if you know, you remember back when you were working a secular job, the day before Christmas Eve, they always let you go home early. So I'm going to try and let y'all go home early. Also, too, if you'd like a copy of those prayer requests, they can be emailed to you. If you'll let Miss Rita or Miss Carol one know, they'll get you a copy that comes to your inbox. Yes, ma'am. Last I heard, Leroy, have you heard how Alex is doing?
Haven't heard.
I haven't heard. So, last he wasn't doing real good. He was recovering from the surgery, was last I heard. So, might be great that they're out of school, you know, so you don't have to worry about trying to do that too. Yes, I'm sure he has. I know at one time they had set it up where he had a tutor or something that was coming. So
I tried to call him the other day, but I didn't get an answer to either number.
Either one. All right, so if you've got your Bible open to Exodus chapter 20, does anybody remember where we left off last week? We didn't leave off at thou shalt not commit adultery. We left off where? Thou shalt not kill is exactly right, okay? Which makes the next one, Brother Jim? No, thou shalt not commit adultery, okay? And that's a real easy, simple, fast forward, easy to understand. I mean, it's kind of simple, isn't it? Really, when you think about it? But it's immensely complex. It is an immensely complex thing.
Does it have to be between married people or unmarried people?
No, actually, really, to be honest with you, as we're going to learn as we go down through this, it is actually any form of sexual immorality. And it brings forth a good question, which we will pose a little bit later on about the actual physical act. But let me ask you this: how serious is this idea of thou shalt not commit adultery or immorality, because it's in view here as well? How serious is that?
Okay.
How serious is it in our country?
It's not serious.
It's an epidemic, is it not? Matter of fact, actually, this graphic right here I pulled off of the Southern Baptist Convention website actually says that, you know, that it's come to a point where it's not only accepted anymore, actually, in most cases, it's expected. You know, and it's expected among our young people. It's expected amongst adults. You know what I'm saying? If you know, and we're going to get into this whole idea of cohabitation and the whole 9 yards, but I want you to understand today that these commands are just as relevant today as they ever were. But because of media, and I'm not talking about the drive-by media, I'm talking about because of the media, the way we transport images and information and data. It's an entirely different world in which we live in. You know, today, years ago, when we talked about pornography, we were talking about magazines and those kind of things. Today, when you're talking about pornography, if you have a cell phone, guess what? That garbage can be piped right into your house. Now, when you say that, think about this, right? Who was telling us the story about the kid? Was it you heard this morning about the kid? They were asking the 3 or 4 year old something, and they were on an iPhone. What was this? The story?
Yeah, they were calling people in off the road, mothers with children in car seats.
Right.
And they called this one lady in to show her how to install and how to properly install the car seat. While the man was there showing her how to do that, her baby was in the car seat with an iPhone.
So, I mean, you know, when you stop and you think about it, and we chuckle about it, but today, with the personal assistants that are on the cell phone, all you have to do is tell it what you want it to do, and it will do it. So when you say, well, my children are guarded against that, don't think so. You know, I remember when Facebook first became prevalent, and the director that I worked for then was a Christian, and it is a Christian, and he,
You did it. I didn't do it.
yeah, I just killed something. There, is that it? That's it. I'm sorry. Take it away from him. Miss Carol's over here smacking me on the back of the head. Don't you know better? But the idea is that, you know, he said people didn't realize what their children were putting on Facebook. And I mean, you know, and I have counseled with children, teenagers, about sexting. You know what I'm saying? Sending naked pictures of themselves to other people. Now, stop and think about that for just a minute now. You know, because here's the deal. What they don't understand that once it goes there, it doesn't matter how much you delete it. Once it's on the web, it's on the web forever. It's never going away. And the thing about it is that because people are so naive, and I'm not just talking about young people now, I'm talking about all people, when it comes to this stuff of the internet and Facebook, that they think, oh, well, I'm just going out there to look at pictures of my kids. You don't know what all is going on. Man, you don't need to tell people when you're on vacation and what Santa Claus brought you for Christmas. You don't need to be putting all that mess out there. Because when you put it out there, guess what happens? They can stalk you. That's exactly right. Then people say, well, I don't know how you found out where I live. Well, you put it on the internet for everybody to see. That's how you found out where you live. Well, how do you know what I look like? Every picture you got, you know, snap finger and chicken ground or whatever that stuff is. And, you know, I mean, you expect that they didn't find out who you were, you know. But it is the media today, the medium, that is the real danger. And people say, well, it's not evil. Well, yes, it is. It's being used for evil. You know what I'm saying? And if you think about it, and I love I don't know whether y'all saw the bulletin board that Miss Carol put up, but you know, how many of us, if we treated our Bibles like we treated our cell phones, how much better off would we be? Stop and think about it for a minute now. You know, most folks can't make it through a church service without looking at their phone. Now, you know, I can understand if it was like I'm on call and I got to have my phone go. Dude, let me tell you something. If somebody wants to just snap finger you, you don't need to be doing that in church. Say amen. Nod your head. You know what I'm saying? But it is because it's become so ingrained in us that we have to have this, and it's become the new normal, unfortunately. And immorality goes right along with that, okay? It is just so easy to obtain anymore, and it is just the push of a few buttons. So it is very prevalent today. Matter of fact, actually, we're drowning in it, whether we realize it or not. Now, think about this for a minute. He said, why, okay, we talk about the Ten Commandments being the foundational document for all societies, okay? Why would God include this one thing about social behavior? Because it really is about social behavior. It really isn't about the individual. It's about society, okay? Why do you think that would be so important? Anybody?
Because that tells other people what we are.
Because he knew the ramifications. I'm sorry, Brother John.
No, like, on whatever you are, and the way they're acting, and maybe the way I'm acting, they're gonna wanna come up onto that. They wanna, oh, we can pull this guy in, you know?
Okay.
When you know very well you shouldn't be doing.
Right.
Amen.
Why? Why would God include this? Or why is it so important to be in this founding document of all society?
Well, if it's so important to him to put it in there, it ought to be important to us to adhere to it.
Okay, but I'm asking the why, okay? Now, Ashley said something that was what now? Okay, because it's an attack on the family, all right? Let's see if I can get this on the clicker later. I think there should be another. Yeah, it should be on a mouse click. Try hitting clicking on that thing. Let's see if it brings it up. No, hang up. It's not that. It's that one right there. There should be two more. They should kind of float in and all that kind of stuff. Floaty. I've done something with this thing before. It don't matter. Okay. But actually, he is absolutely right. It is an attack on the family. Now, the next question is, why then does it matter about the family? Why would that be such a, I mean, as far as, and we're talking about nations now. We're talking about societies that these documents are written to. Why is it so important then that the family be in view here or under attack? Anybody? I have done something here, guys. I'm like on number 6 or something. Hang on a minute here. Let me redo this here. Yeah, let me reboot this thing. I don't just rebooted something. I could do like my wife and slam on the counter 4 or 5 times. Say, this thing don't work. Yeah, I guess it don't. There we go. There we go. We got it now. Oh, I'll tell you what, we're moving up, okay? So what institution is threatened by immorality? Of course, it's the family. So why is the family so important? Anybody? Because that's where you learn, and that's what's demonstrated, or where it's demonstrated what? Love, trust, and loyalty. Now let me ask you a question. I tell you all the time about your church attendance and about your faithfulness in general. And what do I always tell you? It's important that you be faithful. Why? Because the little ones are doing what? They're watching you. It's exactly right. So now, when they're little and you're not faithful, when they get to be teenagers and you really want them to be here, what's going to happen? They're going to look at you and say, what? You weren't faithful. Why in the world should I be faithful? They do you one step further. Let's go and talk about immorality now. What about the homes that are destroyed because of infidelity? What do the children learn? That infidelity is all right, right? Or that my dad wasn't faithful, and the little boy learns what? Why would I be faithful? Okay? The little girl understands that her mother wasn't faithful, so what does she do? Why would I be faithful? You know what I'm saying? Because I am only demonstrating to you what I have learned at home. And that's why it's so important that the family, that cohesive unit, stay together the way God planned it. Because guess what? The foundation of the society is what? It's the family. It's exactly right. And the way the nation goes is the way the family will go. Listen to what I'm telling you now. Think about this for a minute. What about all the junk that's going on in the swamp up there? People are resigning hand over fist. I had that one guy went out on a bridge and shot himself because he didn't even want to live with all of the stuff that he had been involved with. I keep going back to that $17 million slush fund, and that just blows me out of the water. You know what I'm saying? Where does all of this come from? It comes from where? They have seen it somewhere before. It has been modeled, unfortunately, most of the time, in their own families. And so what happens is the nation follows the way the family goes. Now listen to this. Think about this for just a minute, okay? If a person can't be faithful in their family, that's the physical, right? Remember we said people have so much trouble trusting God because they can't what? Can't see him, can't touch him, can't feel him. Is that not right? All right. So if the family is the physical that we can see and touch, bless you. All right. Right? If a person can't be faithful in a family, which is the physical that he or she can see, right? How then in ideology, which is what the nation and society is, it is an idea that's being put to use. All right. How then can a person put that into practice if they don't, if in the physical they have seen nothing but what? Immorality. Does that make any sense? See, that bond of trust is vitally important to be modeled to our children, all right? So, civilization, nations and societies are built up based on the family unit. Okay? Make any sense? All right? There are some things that go along with this idea of immorality. Okay? I tried to put the graphic up there, but I couldn't get it on the slide. Okay? 59,115,995 abortions
Wow.
since 1973.
Man.
15 million. Now think about that for a minute now. And hey, let me tell you something. You know what's something about this little statistic right here? It doesn't include New Hampshire. It doesn't include California. There are 2 or 3 other northern states that they don't give their information out. So there is no telling how many abortions there have been. Now think about that for a minute now. When abortion started, right, it was because somebody raped me, form of immorality, all right? Now I'm part of the victim, but I'm part of the perpetrator. It was because I didn't want the pregnancy, right? Why didn't you want the pregnancy? Because we weren't married. Because we were having an adulterous affair. Do you begin to see, this is like marijuana. People say, well, you know, in Augusta here recently, the Brain Trust down there, called the Commission, decided that they thought that they ought to just like, you know, if you had a pound or something like that, it ought to be a $50 fine. Right? Because Atlanta decided. Now, who in the world would want to mimic Atlanta? I don't know about y'all. You ever been to Atlanta? I wouldn't want to mimic Atlanta with nothing. Okay? But because Atlanta said, our jails are overcrowded, we'll do that. Well, the problem is this. The guy said, the marijuana is not the problem. What comes along with the marijuana is the problem.
Somebody messed up.
See, immorality, you can't play with this stuff. You can't just go on the fringe of it and say, yeah, but that don't hurt nobody. Yeah, it does. It does. It hurts tremendously. And it not only hurts the individual, not only the families that have gone through this, because the feminist movement has told everybody, oh, you don't want that baby just to have an abortion. You won't think about it.
Yeah.
Guess what we're finding out now?
Thinking.
That all these women are walking wounded because guess what? The remorse and the regret they have because they murdered their child. And that's exactly what happened. Or they allowed their child to be murdered, however you want to put it. I thought that statistic, when I looked down at that, I thought, man. This is based on the numbers reported, this is the Gutenberg Institute, with a projection of 926,190 for 15-16. GI estimates a possible 3% underreporting rate, which is factored into the overall total. So it ain't even being reported. How many of them were illegal abortions? Because somebody got pregnant out of wedlock. Think about this for a minute now. This all goes back to those 4 or 5 little words. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Right? But people tell us today that, oh well, it don't matter. Well, I wanted to show you something here. This is the births that are out of wedlock. I stretched it as much as I could, and I know it's still hard to see. But I want to show you something. This is the blue. See that blue line right there?
Yeah.
That is 1964. The red is 2014. Okay? I want you to go down here to Iceland. Okay? Go down here. They were at 27.8%. Look at them today. They're almost at 70% of the children born in their country are born out of wedlock. Listen to what I'm telling you now. And before you get all wrapped around the axle about them, you might want to come right down here to right here. In 1964, less than 10%. Anybody see how much it is today? It's over 40%. 40% in 2014. That means 4 in every 10 children are born to people who are not married. Now think about that for a minute now. Because here's the deal, right? When that child comes into the world and the husband or the father, the biological father, the baby daddy, somebody got that right, and the baby mama decide that they don't want to be together no more, what happens? They don't even have to get a divorce. They do what? See you. Right? Now, I'm going to tell you something. Your preacher is he is not a progressive thinker when it comes to this. Okay? Because I'm telling you what, I believe you have one, hey, you know what I'm saying? We ought to help you. Everybody makes a mistake. The second one, guess what? We're fixing to tie your tubes. And we're going to go one step further. We're going to find out who the daddy is, and we're fixing to tie his tubes too. So he quits bringing children into the world. Because here's the deal. Guess what? Guess who is supporting probably 90% of these kids? Do you wonder why we have TV commercials every 5 minutes about see the little kid who ain't got nothing? This is why. Because there's no mom and daddy. They have nothing to see to say, this is the role model. And so what are those kids going to do? They're going to do the exact same thing.
That's an argument for abortion.
And they make that as an argument for abortion, but it's not. What really should happen is they should all get married, and when they do, then you know what? If they decide to divorce, so be it. But somebody is supporting that child. You know what I'm saying? I thought this was pretty interesting too. Y'all know what cohabiting is, don't you? That's the shack up time, okay? I thought this was interesting. Said, according to this statistic, now this is the Pew Research Institute, okay? In 2016, there were 18 million people cohabitating. Now, those are probably the ones that are just owning up to it. Okay. But I wanted to show you something here I thought that was pretty interesting, because between the 18 to 34-year-olds, from 7 to 16, guess what? It went up 24%. That's a quarter, okay? Not so high in the 35 to 49-year-olds, but it did go up 20%. But I want you to show you something. Anybody know who those are?
Old folks.
That's us, okay? And look at what it went up.
Double.
75% in 6 years. Yes, ma'am, Miss Nancy, go ahead.
But you know, a big reason why it is such a large number, over 50, is because they cannot get their Social Security if they get married. Once they get older, one partner loses their Social Security, and they need that money to live on, so then they just go ahead and decide to live together.
Yeah. It's exactly true. It's exactly true. I was going to bring that statement up. You know what I'm saying? Got her all flustered up. She threw her Bible out and everything else. I'm going to have to go by her house and get Mary and go with me and see who she's got back there in the back shed. Man, I don't mess this thing up.
We got a disabled in
I don't know what I'm doing. This is killing me. Only if it says.
I'm gonna say mama, baby.
All right? So now you've heard the argument.
Backward buttons.
Okay? You've heard the argument. Is that not right? Okay? So then what do we do? I mean, these are real issues. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know, we tell people, oh, don't live together. Well, guess what? If you tell one partner or the other to get out, where do they go?
Back to mama's.
What if mama ain't alive? Exactly. But what I'm trying to tell you is this. These are real problems.
You know that?
Okay?
Yeah.
But the question is this, right? What are we going to do? What are we, when I say we, I'm talking about God's people. What are we going to do? help you much when you get to the grocery store. I've been to IGA all the time praying, they won't give you no money. I've tried to get on my good looks, I've come closer. I had Mary with me. Messed me up. I'm serious, tell me,
You know,
what do we do? What do we do?
Pastor, you take two folks that are married. They work themselves to death all their life. They accumulate some Social Security. When it comes time to retire, they pay the man more than the woman, and it could be that the woman made more money than the man did. And they deduct money from her because she's married. Just like what Nancy said. Now what's up with that? That's wrong. I mean, that woman has paid her taxes, she's paid money into Social Security for all that years.
Nothing from
And they penalize her because she's worked herself to death all her life. It just does not make sense.
Okay, so what do we do? I'm asking. I think that is one of the things that we do. What now? Clean out the swamp, start over. I can go that route too. Anybody else? I'm asking you. I am asking you. What is the solution?
There is none.
Well, I think that there is. I do. I think that there is, and there's only a solution for God's people. There's not a solution for the rest of the world. But the solution for God's people is to do what? What did Peter say? Let God be true and every man a liar. Is that not right? Now, what does that mean? So if I'm going to marry this person, I truly love them, and I'm going to marry them, is just what God told me to do, right? We're going to lose his or her Social Security. What do we have to do?
Trust God.
You have to trust God with it. Is that not right? But you know what? It may be that, you know what? Maybe you got to get a job at Walmart greeting people. Maybe that's what you have to do. But to simply say, well, we can't make it, well then, what is your justification to God? Do you see what I'm saying?
This is happening.
And I'm not beating anybody up, believe me, Lord knows. I mean, it is a real problem because we penalize people who are married. All people that are married. It don't matter whether you're senior citizens or not. We penalize everybody that's married. And that's why a lot of people say, oh, it's the money. Well, here's the deal, all right? What other commandment can you say, we could save money if we did this? So now does it all become, we just decide what we want to do based on the economics? And I'm asking, folks, I'm not beating nobody up. I'm asking. Brother Wayne, I'm sorry, you want to say?
I was just going to say military is another area that is pretty prominent in because of the fact that a widow, if, she's lost her husband or something, she's going to lose all benefits if she marries. And we experienced that probably 5 or 6 years ago with a young lady. She's very young.
She loses all the benefits when the husband dies,
She's
period.
not going to remarry because she's going to have to give up all her benefits, the on-post shopping, the hospital, all the insurance and stuff. So it's just another area. Somehow the world feeds these things.
Well, it's not for this standpoint. People talk about, people who are people of faith are just ignorant, gun-toting, Bible-thumping people, and they'll believe anything. But think about it for a minute. What does the world put in front of you to entice you to go contrary to the Word of God? Now think about it for a minute. It ain't just money. What about benefits? Well, I'm the first one to crow about doggone insurance and stuff. Imagine a military family with 4 or 5 kids that's fixing to lose all of their insurance or, their medical benefits because she's going to get married and this guy's non-military. Or widows. Yeah.
Once the military person dies, they're not, they don't resolve it, but they use the bank.
Right. And but they do have survivors something or another, don't they?
If they paid for it.
But you had to pay for it.
Yeah, you have to get it somehow.
Yeah, I know because Marlon used to.
Well, that changes at age 60. The widow remarried after age 60, she will not lose her husband's Social Security benefits.
I think that it's, like I said, I think that the thing that I'm trying to get you to think about is this. What will the devil do to get you to follow him as opposed to following the Lord? And sometimes, guess what? You remember in the New Testament where it says the just shall live by faith? Sometimes, what do you have to do? I mean, Lord forgive me. Sometimes. Every time, what do you have to do?
Live by faith.
You have to make the choice to say, Lord, I got to do what's right. I can't do what everybody else is doing. It may make all the economic sense in the world. The world may say, this is the way you get around that. This is how you beat people. You know what I'm saying? But if you're a child of God, guess what? The Holy Spirit ought to be saying something to you saying, wait a minute, I can't live like this. And if you can live like that and it doesn't bother you, you might want to check to see whether or not you're in the faith. Right? You know what I'm saying? And again, please don't anybody leave here mad with me. He's just down on old. No, I'm telling you, this is a real problem in our society. Now, think about this for a minute now. Remember what he talked about? Don't commit adultery. Had we based everything on the family, would we be having these problems? We would not. Why? Because the husband would have left enough for the widow to do what? Get by. You know what I'm saying?
Well, they had those problems back in the olden days too.
Well, I'm sure they did. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know, you got to make your mind up. I mean, are you just going to be part of this statistic? You know, that's your choice. But the problem is you're more than a statistic. See what I'm saying? You're demonstrating to your grandchildren what? So when you get 18 and decide you're going to move in with Billy Joe Bob, have 14 children by 12 different men, you know, and you come up on my doorstep wanting to know how you're going to feed your kids because EBT doesn't run out. Then what do? I mean, what do you tell them? Well, you know, you shouldn't have done that. Really? You're living with Grandpa Joe. You know what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? I mean, that's the real dilemma. At the end, it isn't you. It's the people you influence. That's the real dilemma.
And if we make excuses to do that, we can make excuses for these other commandments that gave up.
Yes, ma'am.
Our own.
Yeah.
Well, so it goes down to this. Once we start sliding, what happens? Okay, initially, right? I can remember when I was a kid, listening to people talk about abortions and saying, well, you know, so-and-so got raped and she shouldn't have to have this child, you know what I'm saying, because she was raped. Well, you know, to a 15, 16-year-old kid, that sounds pretty good. Yeah, man, she was violated, and she was, right? She shouldn't have to have that child. That's where it started. Where did it wind up? Well, you know, I was out all over the weekend. I think I'm pregnant. Let's go in and have an abortion. Correct? Now we have a pill. You don't even have to go to an abortion clinic. Just take the pill. That's plan B. So children are just inconvenient. You see what I'm saying? That's what I'm trying to tell you. When he said, don't commit adultery, don't be involved in morality, this had a far-reaching consequence that we don't see. Today, we don't see it. Matter of fact, actually, when you read these out somewhere, you know what I'm saying, especially in the media, you're going to get laughed right off the page. You're just old-fashioned. You don't understand the way things work today. You know, I read another statistic when I was reading this. It said that the number one reason people cohabitate is they want to prepare for marriage, right? Because they think that if they cohabitate, they'll have a better chance of their marriage surviving.
What marriage?
Wrong.
Exactly backwards.
Wrong. Because guess what Billy Joe does? He says, gee, you know what? Why should I have to get married? Because when I get ready to walk away from this, guess what I can do? I can walk away. And then poor little, you know, Annie winds up where? At mama's or grandmama's doorstep with 13 children, saying what? I need help. Somebody help me. So you see what I'm saying? There are no easy answers to this other than you either take it all or you take none of it. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Amen.
And I'm not trying to be harsh, but I'm just telling you, that's the way it is. Because once you start down, and we're fixing to go into another one, well, week after next, because we haven't finished this one tonight. But we're fixing to go into another one that says, thou shalt not steal. Now, let me ask you a question. Don't raise your hand. They will record this. This gets out on the internet. Every one of y'all will be in jail. Right? But, I mean, you ever walked away with a pen from work? Ever printed something off on the printer that was yours? You know, that's stealing. Okay, so let me ask you this. But that's all right because, you know, I work pretty hard here and I give them all these extra hours and all that stuff. Okay? Where does it stop?
Maybe it don't.
You're looking at 30 years for embezzlement? Because we got some city folks that are looking at 30 years. So you understand what I'm saying? But what I'm saying, Ms. Lee, is this. Did it start with, well, you know, but that pen's all right. Because once you start down that road, guess what? There ain't no backing up. There ain't no backing up. So, Merry Christmas. And I don't want to hear, I don't want Miss Nancy calling me, telling me there's half a dozen y'all out there with flashlights in her back shed. Yes, that's absolutely.
To go back to the 50s, 60s, no, what we have to remember as Christians is, in the Bible it says, God will supply our need. And that's what we have to remember. And I know that's a hard thing, and especially when you're in need, and you're in that situation, but if you're a Christian, we have to remember that God will be there for us, and He's going to supply what we need.
Well, you know, I think that this discussion right here, in my opinion, prompts the dialogue because we're forever saying, it's the kids, it's the kids. It ain't just the kids. It is the kids. They're there too, you know what I'm saying? But it ain't just the kids. It's society as a whole that says, this is normal. We have to do this. Well, then when you say, I have to do this to survive, what you just said is, my God can't. That's what you just said.
Obey them, just, till it comes to the point where we needed something else. You know, we've got to do it all the time, we've got to obey Him regardless.
Exactly right. That's why we're the most blessed nation in the world. But I think we're trying this patience. I really do. It's long suffering, but this thing, this immorality thing is a cesspool, folks. And people use every excuse. If you're involved in it, you'll have a reason as to why.
Yeah.
And to you, on the surface, it will make absolutely perfect sense. But my question is, how do you argue with thou shalt not? I mean, you know, somebody tell me, because I'm not that smart. Because you know what we're going to find out as we delve deeper into this subject? This isn't just the physical act that he's talking about. Because the physical act begins right here. And when you're bombarded constantly with it, and believe me, there is nothing you can turn on that you're not bombarded with it. You remember the soap operas? Y'all remember them? They still come on? They said, y'all were way too fast. You know where the girl was on it, she'd been on it 37 years and had 15 children by 12 different people. Actually 16, but still, you know, who's counting, you know? And the thing is, guess what? We put this fantasy, because that's all pornography is. It's a fantasy. You know what I'm saying? It's not reality. That's what makes it so dangerous. We put this fantasy in front of people who are at home watching children who are already tired and wore out, you know what I'm saying? And probably ain't getting paid nothing and they're stripping to make everything. And you put this fantasy in front of, man, you could work for XYZ company making $1 billion a week and, you know, you could be the love object of 15 executives. And I mean, after a while, you pump enough of that garbage in, and guess what? You'd be so, yeah, it's exactly right. It's exactly right. Yes, I'm sorry, go ahead, brother.
They had interviewed, one of the news media interviewed Jimmy Carter and asked him if he'd ever committed adultery. He said, well, he had it in his mind. Then he asked Rosalind, she said, well, if I did, I'd never tell you.
She was trying to be too genteel. But anyway, we will get to that next week. Please be careful going home tonight. The roads are wet. If there's anything I can do, if you're cooking Christmas dinner or something and not sure whether you want to feed that to your family, you will call me and Wayne. We will come over. We will almost do communion. It'll be close to it. We'll give thanks. And we're right, Brother Wayne. You know what I'm saying? And we'll eat up all your Christmas turkey. What is that one where they're all mixed together? Tried duck? Yeah, that too, right there. One of those. I don't know if I want one of those where it's all mixed up anyway. I like to identify what I can do. Anyway, but y'all, I hope you have the merriest of Christmases. If there's anything that I can do for you, please don't hesitate to call upon me. I will help you anyway.